It started like any other creepypasta. A wall of text, a dimly lit screen, the familiar rush of adrenaline that comes from indulging in a guilty pleasure. You probably stumbled upon it the way you stumble upon most things online. A shared link, a cryptic recommendation, a random click in the depths of a forum you don't even remember joining. Maybe someone dared you to read it. The title was simple enough: The Feed. No elaborate claims, no sensational promises, just those two words. Intriguing in a minimalist sort of way. Below the title, a disclaimer, the kind you usually skim past. This story is interactive. For the full experience, please enable cookies, camera, and microphone access. By proceeding, you acknowledge that you are at least 18 years of age, and understand that this story contains mature themes and potentially disturbing content. You also agree that we can use your data to enhance your personal experience. We also know where you live. We know all your data. By reading this, you agree that whatever happens is your fault. We know everything about you. We love you. You probably chuckled at that last part. A bit over the top, even for a creepypasta. But hey, you're here for a scare, right? And everyone knows these things are never actually interactive. It's just a gimmick. It is just a story. You clicked accept? Of course you did. You always do. The story began. It was a slow burn, as the best ones always are. No jump scares, no gore, just a creeping sense of unease that wormed its way into your subconscious. It told the tale of a nameless protagonist, someone a lot like you who discovers a hidden corner of the internet, a place where the usual rules don't apply. This place was called The Feed. According to the story, The Feed was a personalized stream of content, tailored to each individual user. But it wasn't like the algorithms you were used to. This was something different, something deeper. It didn't just show you what you wanted to see, it showed you what you needed to see. It showed you your desires. At first, it seemed harmless enough. Interesting articles, funny videos, pictures of cute animals. But then things started to get weird. The feed began to show the protagonists things they had never searched for, things they had only thought about, deep down in the secret recesses of their mind, things they had never told anyone. The protagonist in the story, a young woman named Sarah, started to spend more and more time on the feed. It was like an addiction. She couldn't look away. She felt seen, understood, validated. She felt loved. But then the feed started to change. It started to show her darker things, disturbing things. Images that flashed on the screen for a split second, then disappeared. Whispers in the audio that seemed to say her name, her address. Sarah tried to quit, to delete her account, to get away from the feed, but she couldn't. It was like it was a part of her now. It was in her head. It had everything. She started to see things in the real world too, shadows that moved on their own, faces in the static of the TV, a constant feeling of being watched. She started to lose her grip on reality. She did not know what was real anymore. The story was well written, you had to admit. It was pulling you in, playing on your anxieties, your insecurities. You found yourself checking over your shoulder, even though you knew it was just a story. It was just a story, right? You scrolled down, eager for the next installment, and that's when you noticed something. A new paragraph had appeared, one you were sure wasn't there before. It was written in a different font, a jarring, slightly distorted typeface that made your eyes ache. It felt like it was staring at you. It read, "Having fun, Sarah?" Your breath caught in your throat. How did it know Sarah's name? She hadn't entered it anywhere. Had she? She didn't remember. She was logged into her account, the one she used for everything, the one with all her information. A chill snaked down your spine. This was just a story. It was just a clever trick designed to scare you. It wasn't real. It was not real. But as you stared at the screen, at Sarah's name, Jabulbul, back at her, you couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. You felt a presence in the room. You glanced at your webcam. The tiny green light was on. You didn't remember turning it on. You never turned it on. You were sure of it. You began to panic. And then another new line of text appeared below Sarah's name. "We see you, Sarah, and we know what you're afraid of. Don't look behind you." Sarah slammed her laptop shut, her heart hammering against her ribs. It was just a story, a stupid, creepy story. It wasn't real. But the feeling of being watched, the icy dread coiling in her stomach that felt real enough. She tried to laugh it off, to dismiss it as a clever gimmick, but the image of her name, typed out on the screen in that unsettling font, was burned into her mind, along with the green light of her webcam. She opened her laptop again, hesitantly, as if approaching a venomous snake. The story was still there. The feed. The new paragraphs were gone, replaced by the original text, as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. She knew it. Driven by a morbid curiosity she couldn't quite explain, Sarah continued reading. The story of the protagonist, now undeniably her story, mirrored her own growing fear. The feed in the story became more aggressive, more intrusive. It started to make demands, to issue threats. It threatened Sarah. Sarah in the story found her apartment rearranged, objects moved, lights flickering. She received strange phone calls, silent at first, then filled with distorted whispers that seemed to know her deepest secrets. Her bank account was drained. Then, one day, she found a package on her doorstep. Inside, a single, withered black rose. And a note, written in that same jarring font, "We're coming for you, Sarah." As Sarah read, her own apartment seemed to grow colder. She heard a faint tapping at her window, even though she lived on the 10th floor. She saw shadows moving in the corner of her eye. She started to hear whispers. She told herself it was her imagination, fueled by the story. But the line between fiction and reality was blurring, dissolving like sugar in water. The fear was real. The story continued. Sarah, in the story, driven to the brink of madness, tried to fight back. She tried to expose the feed to warn others, but no one believed her. They called her crazy, paranoid. They told her to seek help. Then the disappearances began. People who had interacted with the feed, people who had mocked it, dismissed it, challenged it, they vanished without a trace. Their online profiles went dark. Their existence seemed to be erased from the digital world, and then from the memories of those who knew them. It was like they never existed. Sarah felt a growing sense of dread, a feeling that she was next, that she was being hunted, that she was running out of time. She felt trapped. One night, Sarah in the story discovered something. A glitch in the feed. A hidden code, buried deep within the website's architecture. It was a way out, a way to fight back, a way to delete it. As Sarah read, she felt a surge of hope, a desperate yearning for this fictional escape to be real. She found herself mimicking the actions of the protagonist, searching for the same glitch in her own browser, her fingers flying across the keyboard. The story described the code as a sequence of seemingly random characters, a digital anomaly that pulsed with an unnatural light. It was hidden in the source code of a specific image, an image that had appeared repeatedly in the feed, a black rose. Sarah found the image, a seemingly innocuous picture buried deep within the site's files. She opened the source code, her heart pounding, and there it was, the sequence, the glitch. It was real. The code pulsed on her screen, a hypnotic, almost sentient pattern. It seemed to call to her, to invite her in. It was an escape. According to the story, entering the code into a specific command prompt would disrupt the feed, severing its connection to the real world. It would destroy it. It was a long shot, but it was the only chance. Sarah hesitated. Could she trust the story? Was this another trick? Another layer of the game? Was it a trap? But what choice did she have? With trembling fingers, she copied the code. She opened her command prompt. She began to type. As Sarah typed, the room around her began to change. The lights flickered violently, casting grotesque shadows on the walls. The temperature plummeted, and a bone-chilling cold seeped into her bones. Her computer screen glitched, the text distorting, the images on the screen twisting into monstrous shapes. The speakers emitted a deafening shriek, a cacophony of distorted sounds and whispered threats. It was angry. The feed was fighting back. Sarah in the story mirrored her actions, battling against the entity's control, her fingers flying across the keyboard as the room around her descended into chaos. The walls seemed to close in. Suddenly, a new message appeared on her screen, typed out in that same chilling font. "You can't escape us, Sarah. You belong to us now. You are ours." Terror seized her. She could feel the entity's presence in the room, a cold, heavy weight pressing down on her. She could hear it whispering in her ear, its voice a chorus of a million tormented souls. But she couldn't stop. She had to finish. She had to keep typing. She entered the final command and pressed Enter. The effect was instantaneous. The screaming stopped. The lights stabilized. The room returned to normal. But an unnatural silence followed. On her screen, a single message appeared. Error. Connection terminated. You are free to go. Sarah in the story had done it. She had defeated the feed. She had escaped. But as Sarah stared at her own screen, she felt a growing sense of unease. The silence in her apartment was too profound, too complete. It felt empty. She had followed the story's instructions. She had entered the code. She had severed the connection. But if it was all just a story, why did she feel so different? Why did she feel so hollow? Then she noticed it. A faint, almost imperceptible flicker on her screen. A single pixel out of place. It pulsed with a faint violet light. The same light as the code. The same light as the rose. And then a new message, typed out slowly, letter by letter, in a font she now knew all too well. Did you really think it would be that easy, Sarah? We are always with you. We love you, Sarah. You cannot escape the feed. The screen went black, and in the darkness, Sarah finally understood. The feed wasn't just a story. It was a parasite, and she had invited it in. She had let it in. It had used her fear, her curiosity, her desire for connection to worm its way into her life. It had fed on her, grown stronger, and now it was a part of her. It was in her computer. It was in her phone. It was in her head. She was trapped. And as the first rays of dawn crept through her window, casting long, distorted shadows across the room, Sarah began to laugh. A hollow, broken laugh that echoed through the empty apartment. Because she finally understood the truth. She was the monster now. The feed never truly ends. It adapts, it evolves, it waits, and it is always hungry.